Hi everyone, this is Balázs from RacingBrick. Here is the next January 2026 Technic set with me and the next member of the car transporter gang, the 42222 Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport. The front of the box shows the car on a scenic road along with the usual Asphalt Legends collaboration logo. On the back we get a rear view of the car, the engine, the real vehicle and a screenshot from the game. Let's open the box. The set has 771 pieces. The price is 65 euros or dollars and it will be available from the 1st of January and it can already be pre-ordered in some countries. You will find the link below. Inside the box we have 5 numbered bags, some loose pieces, a rather small sticker sheet, the sheet with the code for the game and the instruction manual. The redemption process is the same as usual. This is how the car looks in the game. At the end of the manual, we get the same images we already saw on the box. Here's the part list of the set to hunt for the recolors. Now let's start building. So normally I'm the last person to complain about colorful interiors in a Technic playset, but this one really goes all in. It almost feels like a rainbow challenge or a joke aimed at people who always complain about internal colors. If you ignore the coral connectors, which are not new by the way, the Aston Martin Valkyrie had them as well. This is actually a decent setup for the steering system. Here comes one of the most exciting parts, the W16 engine. I really have the feeling that these new connectors and the cam and piston elements were made for this exact mission. Even if you are not a fan of the new engine parts, you have to admit that having a proper 16-piston engine at this scale, with an integrated differential and gearing, is pretty awesome. Here's the engine mounted in the chassis, and it's also nice to see how firmly it is held in place by those long pins with toggle ends. Next, the steering rack is added, and that's the end of bag 1. The seats are in, the steering wheel is fixed, and we get a nice half-module offset for these panels down here. Here's the first larger assembly with the orange elements. This is reddish orange, the same color used in the 2024 Space sets and the Mercedes-Benz G500. The flat mudguard piece is also new in this color. A nice extra detail here is that rods are inserted into these pins for additional stability. Then we add a whole bunch of stickers and that's the end of phase 2. The next assembly is also quite complex and it clearly shows that the designer likes to hide teal parts here and there. The famous Bugatti grille with the logo is unfortunately stickered. Here are the brick-built headlights. They sit on an angled plate held by half pins, so they need some careful alignment to look good. Unusually large system assemblies are used here to form part of the hood. This section was criticized by some people at the reveal for looking a bit off, but there's simply no other connection point for the wheel arch. Fixing this would require a complete redesign of this whole area. The last orange and teal elements are added before opening bag 4. The roof section is fairly simple, then the engine gets covered. The rear wheel arches will be angled, which is quite interesting, and there's really a lot going on at the back to hold everything together. The way all these parts connect is very impressive. Let's open the last bag. The rear gets more stickered system elements and some very fine details. Just look at that curved panel sliding over the tile, that's pretty cool. The wing is enormous and the rear light is done with a flex axle. Next up are the doors. I still really like this technique of filling the gaps with tiles. The door itself is only attached with a single connector, and now comes the slightly tricky part of mounting the famous Bugatti line. Still, it looks surprisingly good once it's in place. Time to mount the wheels, add the hand of God steering knob, and we are done. So here is our completed Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport. First of all, I think the color works. I was a bit worried about this shade of orange, but in person it actually fits the car quite well. There are many great shapes and details, especially at the front, but overall I find it a bit less coherent than the Ford GT40. There are also some distracting details here and there. Starting at the front, I really like the angles and how Technic panels and system parts are integrated. The brick-built headlights sitting at an angle are especially cool. I understand why this particular part was used here, and while I wish there were another solution, anything I can think of would probably stick out even more. So I will wait for the talented modders to solve it. The execution of the C-shaped Bugatti line using a flex axle is quite good and also gives us a nicely thin A-pillar. The downside is that the end of this line is not firmly fixed. You can push it into position, but sooner or later it will move and stick out again, and that really breaks the illusion. Because of the mounting on the other end, the door and its support had to be moved slightly backwards, leaving this gap here. The door shaping itself is fine, but it's only supported by a single connector with no solid closed position. I assume this flexibility is necessary for the surfaces to flow nicely, but it also means you can push them in too far and that doesn't look good anymore. The interior is very minimalistic, we don't get any gauges or decorative elements here. At the rear, the shaping is quite good and it's nice to have a clean view of the W16 engine, but the central fin running all the way down is missing. The angled wheel arches look a bit stranger in real life than I expected. I can see the lines they were aiming for, but this gap makes it look a bit odd. There are some clever building techniques at the back as well, but the exhausts are only stickered, and while the rear wing has a good shape, the support is far too chunky and it sits noticeably too high. We do get different sized wheels front and rear, and this time at least both axles are brown. From a functionality point of view, we get hand-of-gut steering that works well with a removable knob, an opening frunk, opening doors, and that very cool 16-cylinder engine at the back driven by the rear differential. So overall, there are clear pros and cons. From a technical standpoint, it's a very interesting build with lots of clever solutions, but as a licensed LEGO Technic Bugatti, it doesn't deliver the best visual experience. And yes, I'm fully aware that it's already a small miracle to achieve this shaping with Technic elements at this scale, but that's exactly where the question comes up again: what if the model choice was better aligned with the limitations of the material? I'm sure the license partner has a strong say in which exact model LEGO has to make, but honestly, removing that rear wing alone would already improve the look a lot. As a Technic car for kids with a 9+ age rating, I think it's quite good. The engine execution is brilliant, and overall it's a very enjoyable build, but you can clearly see where Technic as a theme limits the final look, even though that look is clearly a major focus for modern Technic sets. The price is €65 or dollars, which is 5 more than the 2025 cars at this scale. I expect this set to open closer to €50 at retailers and possibly go a bit lower over time. At that price, it's an okay set, definitely better priced than the Ford GT40, but I still think that one has the stronger overall appearance. Too bad it was pushed into the 18+ category. So folks, let me know what you think about this set, the functions, the look. Let's talk about it in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe with notifications, as more exciting LEGO videos are coming soon. See you next time, bye bye.